G'day everyone, welcome to another episode of Wine Back Wednesday. And I caught up with a mate, Andrew Williams, last week for a couple of beers, and he has given me a couple of wines to try. And we've known each other for a number of years. He's been mainly in the other side of the wine industry, in sort of the wholesale, retail, sales side of things. And he and one of his good mates, Ansel, have started making some wines in the last couple of years. Pretty well Grenaches from down our way in McLaren, Vale, and Chardonnay from the Adelaide Hills. The brand is called Pare, P-A-R-E, for two reasons. That's obviously a play on words. There's two of them, of the two mates, there's a pair of them, and also they are following sort of low intervention winemaking. So obviously they're paring back the winemaking and just literally trying to let the vineyards do the talking and showcase how good quality fruit that they buy. But we've got the 2023 Pare Chardonnay from the Adelaide Hills from a vineyard called the Bowyer Ridge Vineyard, which is up in Kenton Valley, which is just north of or just near Lobethal, and planted in 2003. So it's obviously quite mature now and hitting its straps, and the fruit off there is pretty bloody good, supposedly. So they use two clones. There's the Bernard 76 and the Bernard 96. Both come from Cote in Burgundy in France. The 76 in general, typically depending on what site it's planted on, gives you lovely aromatic and fine wines. And the Bernard 96 typically gives you bigger yields than the 76 clone. But again, it is quite aromatic, but the wines are quite restrained at the same time. It's handpicked in the early hours of the morning during when they're ready to pick. Quickly taken to the winery, whole bunch pressed gently, using pretty well the free run only, fermented with wild yeast, and then sits and stays in French oak, typically around that 50% new, and the balance older used French oak. Around that 15-month mark. And one thing I saw when I commented was I just love the sort of the label and design, very simple. Give all the information, one piece label. But I said, said to Andrew, what's this represented? Typically, and it really sort of showcases, obviously the bottom layer of the line is the soil, the land, and then you have the vineyards, and then the next one, the third line, sort of represents the hills. So we sort of McLaren Vale more so than the hills up in Adelaide Hills, and then obviously the top line is the sky and sunshine and rain and whatever. So very cool little label and a nice little story behind it. So without further ado, let's give it a go. So the Bowyer Ridge Vineyard is about 490 metres above sea level, so plenty of elevation, lovely cool night still. It's a little bit further north in the Adelaide Hills, so it gets a good level of sunshine and warmth, but not hot. But it's a lovely growth period, probably a little bit, still has the rain that the Adelaide Hills has, but probably not as much as, say, Piccadilly in the central part of the Adelaide Hills. But again, as I said, still has lovely cool nights. You get that lovely diurnal range and that lovely acidity retention. And let's give it a go. So, being in barrel 15 months, probably I would suspect that most Adelaide Hills Chardonnays are sort of that 9 to 12 months in there, so on average, but I think some people do extend them. So being 15 months, this wine is probably in barrel a bit longer than a lot of ones in the hills. So lovely, it's got golden colour, probably reflected that it's been in barrel a bit longer. Obviously white wines in barrel often pick up a little bit of colour and have that sort of more of a move away from the sort of the straw hue, more to a gold, a pale gold sort of hue. I think there's from my remember speaking to Andrew, I think there's a little bit of malolactic fermentation, a little bit of leaf stirring, a bit of everything in there. So they haven't gone crazy with like additions and whatever, but just let it do its thing. So lovely stone fruits. There's a nice little bit of oak there, a little bit of biscuity, brioche note from that sort of sitting on lees for that length of time. It's ticking all the boxes, like all the things you'd expect to see in a barrel ferment Chardonnay. It's ticking all the boxes, but at the same token, there's no one component that is dominating. So obviously years ago, Australian Chardonnay was a lot of barrel ferment character, a lot of malolactic fermentation with that lot of diacetyl butteriness came through, and often a lot of new oak thrown at it. So it was really quite turbocharged. And then the pendulum swung back, sort of through the early 2000s and the last sort of up to about 15 years ago, when they went the other way, really austere. Still use new oak, but the wines were picked quite early. Very, very little malolactic fermentation, very much focused and taut, tight little wines. And now I think we're seeing a balance in the last sort of decade. People are using, all those little winemaking tools, like barrel ferment, etc., different with commercial yeasts, wild yeast fermentation, a little bit of malolactic fermentation if needed, etc. Just using little bits in there and just building the wines up. And I think this is one of those ones. It's got lots of little bits of all those there. So a little bit of new oak, as I said, lovely fruit weight and richness there, a little bit of brioche, so that brioche biscuity note as a result of sitting on yeast lees and that autolysis character. Lovely, there's acidity still there, but lovely texture, some nice weight to it. For me, it's more it's heading towards, if you look at white Burgundy, more into the Meursault camp as opposed to the Montrachet camp. Montrachet probably more austere and tight and vibrant. This is still got some lovely tightness and acidity, but it's got some richness, a little bit of richness in the background, a little bit round, a bit like that more Meursault note. So Ansel and Andrew might say you're wrong, but that's what I'm sort of getting there. But it's literally exactly what Andrew described to me. It's got all the little bits and pieces in there, little characters in there, all contributing to making a lovely, generous, full-flavoured wine with on the nose, and obviously some full flavours on the palate. But lovely acidity and austerity there, and great length. I can still taste it. A little bit of honeysuckle sort of coming through as well. Yeah, there we go. That's the even now some lovely sort of on there stone fruits and figs and pears, honeysuckle, a bit of brioche. It's opened up a little bit now. It's been in the glass for a couple of minutes. So there we go. The 2023 Pare Wines Bowyer Ridge Chardonnay from the Adelaide Hills. Thanks for listening. Speak to you soon.